Hello. Today I'm going to detail how to remove, clean, and replace the Palathetic Pickup in your Japanese Takamine. Sometimes you might need to remove your pickup and clean it if you're experiencing problems with a ground hum that usually goes away whenever you touch the output jack. This can happen after a string change or just develop over time, and this is caused usually by corrosion. And if you do not properly re-torque the pickup screws after you remove the pickup, it can cause the problem to linger. And so I'm going to show you how to remove this properly and reinstall it. Now, for the purposes of this video, I have removed the strings completely for easier access, but that is not entirely necessary, as you can put a capo on the first fret and loosen your strings, then pop the pins out. That would be the easiest way to get access to this. Or if you have a string through bridge, you can put a capo on the first fret and loosen the strings enough that you can pull them through toward the sound hole and give yourself enough slack in the strings to remove your saddle and get to the pickup assembly. So the first thing we're going to need to do is remove the saddle, which is of course the white bone piece. It may be a little more snug or a little more loose in your specific guitar. And then I'm going to use a small Allen key to simply slide under the perloid dots and pop them out. And once we do this, we reveal the two screws underneath that holds the entire pickup assembly in place. Now, sometimes you do not need to remove your pickup entirely in order to re-torque these screws. It's possible that just re-torquing the screws may fix the issue, but if you want to remove the pickup entirely, you will want to put your left hand underneath the body of the guitar so you can hold the pickup in place, and then use a small number 1 or number 2 Phillips screwdriver to completely remove both of these screws. Don't have that quite loose enough yet. These screws are actually quite long. Okay, so these screws are loose and I will remove them. And then I typically hook the tip of my screw into the end of the grounding strip and remove that. And this is one of the elements that you will want to clean up if it has any corrosion on it, because that can cause ground hum as well. Be sure to inspect the ends where the screws pass through, because if there's a lot of corrosion there or any sort of breakage, if this is not making full contact across the entire surface, it will cause a ground hum. So if one of these round ends is broken off, you'll need to replace it, and that is a relatively cheap part that you can get from an authorized Takamine dealer. Now at this point, I like to use the end of the grounding strip to push the metal caps through the holes, because sometimes they can be a little bit tight, and it's best to have them all come out at once. So now I have the pickup in hand, and I will show you a different angle of the pickup. Once you have the pickup out, this is what you will see. The wire is pointing toward the side of the body that has the preamp in it. And if you remove this, you will see that there's a copper strip in the bottom, and then you have a plastic piece that holds all of your piezo elements together. And be careful, because those caps will obviously fall off. I don't think that there's any difference on what color goes up or down on these piezo elements, because you can see here the top of these are white, and turning it over, the bottom side are sort of a pinkish color. The tops of these caps can become corroded just like the grounding element, and so you may need to clean those up with steel wool. So you'll just want to take one off and rub some steel wool over the top and get it nice and shiny. Then once you're done with that, you are ready to push it back into the guitar where it was. So now you have removed your pickup, and you have cleaned your caps and cleaned off your grounding strip, and so now you're ready to put the pickup back in place. So just looking through the hole, line up the piezo elements in the proper holes and lay the grounding strip back in place. And start each of your screws in. Now this is very important because you want to leave these screws at least 1 to 2 full turns loose before you tighten it up completely. If you tighten these screws completely, it could cause the grounding strip to not lay flat against all of the piezo element caps, and if this happens, it will cause a ground hum. That grounding strip needs to make full contact with all of the piezo caps. There was one guitar I chased down a ground hum on for several weeks before I finally figured out that it was just a problem with reinstalling the pickup correctly. So I still have quite a bit of play in here, as you can probably see. I'm going to tighten it up snug on both ends. This doesn't have to be very tight, by the way. And then I'm just going to give a full turn loose. And then we will finish tightening this back up once the guitar is restrung. So now that your pickup is back in place, you can put your saddle back in. And now it's time to restring the guitar and go from there. And just really quickly before we go any further, I took the hardware out of the guitar to show how the circuit operates. So the pickup starts under your bridge and it comes out to this RCA jack to the input of your preamp. Then it goes back out the preamp from the 1/8 plug to the 1/4-inch output jack of your guitar. So if you're experiencing some ground hum and you think that it may possibly be the preamp going bad, you can remove the RCA jack, remove the pickup from the circuit, and if the ground buzz is gone, then that more than likely means that your preamp is okay. And finally, the last step of this process is to have your guitar tuned up and plug your guitar to an amp. Turn the volume up just loud enough that you can hear the ground hum coming through nicely. I tried several different times to set this up so that it would have a ground buzz before I tightened the screws, but I didn't have any luck with that. So then, as you have your guitar plugged in, you can just start turning these screws a little at a time until they start getting tight. And at some point, you should hear that ground hum just magically go away after you tighten the screws, because you're letting that ground strip underneath there flatten out and make full contact with all of the piezo caps. And once you have both sides nice and snug, you can choose to leave those perloid dots off for a few days and make sure that the problem doesn't reoccur, or you can put it all back together and you are good to go.